Hello everyone, Jayspizy here, and after taking a pretty long break from Stardew Valley, I think it's time to come back and make a playthrough. So in this video, we're going to play a modded playthrough of Stardew Valley Expanded. And here's the list of mods enlisted in the description. In this playthrough, my goal is simple: achieve 100% completion. Well, I haven't played in quite a while, so easier said than done. I will need to build my farm, complete Grandpa's shrine, complete every collection, max out friendships, reaching perfection, and try not to mess up. In this first part, we're getting started, setting up the farm and just making enough progress. So get yourself a snack and let's see how good I can do trying to actually reach 100% completion in Stardew Valley. Starting my playthrough, of course, first things first, it was time to create a new farmer. I created my farmer, picked a pet, and picked just a standard farm. Just like every Stardew player before me, I packed my bags and headed for Pelican Town. That's when I met Robin and Lewis, and they showed me my farm. Even though it was not the greatest, but hey, every farmer starts somewhere. And here it was, my new home. And after getting my parsnips, went outside and, well, if you ignore the mountains of weeds, rocks, and logs, and general chaos covering every inch of the property, it was home. Before anything, I needed to make sure that the farm was at least somewhat clean to plant some seeds. So the first day was spent doing what most every Stardew Valley player does. Once I had enough room to work with, I planted my first few parsnips and kept a few to sell later on. Well, with that, it was time to head into town. On the way, I checked around the bus stop for any forageables I could grab. Early game money is early game money, and I'm not about to leave free gold lying around. Once I arrived, I stopped by the calendar to see what events were coming up. Thanks to one of the mods in this game, my birthday actually exists in the game, which means I could finally experience the joy of everyone forgetting it in two different realities. After that, I headed into Pierre's. There, I met Gus and took a look at what seeds were available. Instead of putting all my money into one crop, I decided to mix things up and grab a variety of seeds. While I was there, I also met Caroline, and since we're aiming for 100% completion, building friendships early is a good idea. Plus, I definitely want to unlock those tree saplings as soon as possible. From there, I started making the rounds, introducing myself to everyone I could find. I also checked the trash cans because dignity is temporary, but free loot is forever. At some point, I found an artifact and immediately donated it to the museum. One item down, only about a million more things to collect before perfection. After meeting more of the townfolk, I made my way back toward the farm, collecting every forager I could find along the way. Once I got home, I planted all the seeds I bought and finally started putting together something that resembled an actual farm. Of course, I wasn't done scavenging yet, so I headed deep into the forest and continued my mission of picking up basically everything that wasn't nailed down. I managed to find an ancient sword, not bad for the first day. By the time night rolled around, my energy was gone and I was finally ready to call it a day. Day 2 started with some mail. One of the letters was from Willie, which meant it was time to unlock fishing. But before heading to the beach, I watered my crops and cleaned up a little more of the farm. On my way through town, I picked up a request from Caroline and continued to introduce myself to more people around Pelican Town. I also decided to give Shane a daffodil. Turns out he didn't like that. And yes, I checked the trash cans again. After wandering around for a bit, I tracked down Caroline and gave her a daffodil. I also donated the ancient sword I found the day before, one more item added to the museum collection. Eventually, I made my way down to the beach and met Willie. More importantly, I got my first fishing rod. I managed to catch my first fish, and then I went up to the river. I was hoping to catch a Jola Cola for Caroline's request while making a little money on the side. Instead, even with bad luck, I managed to catch 3 fish and no Joja Cola. After dropping some items off at the farm, I headed back into town, and this time I finally met Haley. She was incredibly welcoming. Anyway, I went back to the river and tried again. Still, no Joja Cola. At this point, I just went to buy one. So I walked into Joja Mart, bought a cola, and delivered it to Caroline. After churning it in, I checked my friendships and already had 1 heart with Caroline. I also gave Haley a daffodil. You guys need to let me know who I should marry in this playthrough. Before the day ended, I made one more trip through the forest. Then, after trying to fish out a Joja Cola earlier, I finally fished one up, right after I bought one, of course. Day 2 wrapped up with level 1 fishing and 229 gold. Day 3 started with rain, and honestly, that was great because it meant I didn't have to water any of my crops. Plus, I liked the rain. So peaceful, for the most part. With my morning being easy, I headed into town. And of course, I checked the trash cans. At this point, it's part of the daily routine. Today wasn't exactly the most eventful day, but I did manage to gather some spring onions and continue exploring around the valley. I also met Andy, adding another face to the growing list of people I need to befriend. Most of the day was spent chopping down trees and cleaning up the farm. Future me is going to be very thankful for all this extra wood. And if you're wondering why my house looks different all of a sudden, I just changed the appearance through one of the mod settings. I figured if I'm going to spend hundreds of hours here, I might as well like how it looks. After collecting enough forageables, I crafted some spring seeds and planted them. More crops mean big money, and big money means I can stop being broke. Later, I headed back into town and stopped by Joja Mart. I decided I want to befriend Shane. The problem is that I'm trying not to use the wiki, so naturally, I start guessing what he likes. My thought process was simple. He works at Joja Mart sells cola. Surely he likes Joja Cola. He did not. Sorry, Shane. After embarrassing myself, I went fishing, and at some point, I hooked a fish that felt like it was fighting for its life. I spent what felt like 2 minutes trying to reel it in, and then I lost it. Totally fine. Anyway, I kept fishing for the rest of the afternoon and managed to catch a few things before heading home. Back at the farm, I planted some cauliflower seeds. Then I spent the rest of the evening doing what I've been doing all day. Chopping trees, clearing debris. By the end of the day, I reached level 2 foraging. Not the most exciting day so far, but progress is progress. And with that, day 4 began. Day 4 started the old-fashioned way, watering crops. One day, our house sprinklers. After taking care of the farm, I headed into town and stopped by to pet Dusty, because unlike some of the villagers, Dusty is always happy to see me. From there, I made my way over to Sophia's vineyard, and before I even introduced myself, I found a grape starter in her trash. After that, I finally introduced myself to Sophia, and let's just say, she seemed a little startled by the random farmer who appeared outside her house. Completely understandable, honestly. Once that was done, I grabbed my fishing rod and continued meeting more people around the valley. Then it was time to do what had quickly become one of my favorite early game activities, fishing. I headed down to the river near the forest and spent some time trying to build up my wallet. And thankfully, the fishing gods were a little kinder to me today. While I was there, I also grabbed whatever forageables I could find. At this point, if I see something on the ground, it's probably going in my inventory. After finishing up by the river, I headed back toward town. I also stopped by to talk with Caroline. I'm still working on building that friendship up and hopefully unlocking the tree sapling sooner. After that, I tracked down Emily and gave her a gift. I would like to start building a friendship with her too, so every little bit helps. Since Emily was at the saloon, I took the opportunity to talk with some of the other locals while I was there. With the day winding down, I headed back home. I still had a little bit of energy left, so I naturally chopped some trees down. Day 5, the mines were unlocked, and even better, today was a lucky day. So, I knew exactly where I was going. Before heading out, I harvested my first batch of parsnips. It wasn't a huge harvest, but seeing my first crops finish growing felt pretty good. After that, I packed up and made my way toward the mines. On the way, I met Linus, and then just inside the entrance, I met Marlin and got my sword. I head straight underground, and honestly, the mines treated me pretty well. By floor 2, I had found a ruby. I also grabbed pretty much every piece of copper I could find. Eventually, I made it to floor 5, and I found a backpack shirt. Pretty cool. And then I got a wood club. Overall, it ended up being a really successful trip. I pushed all the way down to floor 8 before finally calling it quits. After leaving the mines, I tried making it to the museum, but right when I got there, it closed. So yeah, I headed home, built a second chest, and unloaded all the loot from the mine. Later that evening, I stopped by the saloon to talk with everyone. And that's when things took an unexpected turn. I decided to play Journey of the Period King, and honestly, I wasn't even planning on including this in the video, and before I knew it, I made it further than I ever had made it before. And then what I'm guessing was the final boss showed up, some witch I think. And this boss was insane. This was my first experience and first time seeing this. I almost won, and then I got absolutely clapped. So obviously I tried again, and somehow I still made it back to the boss, only to lose again. At that point, I accepted defeat.
The game is broken, EA Sports! The game is broken! I'm losing every single game!
And so I headed home, but for a lucky day, I can't complain. Day 6 started with Clint showing up at my doorstep and telling me about a furnace. He also gave me the blueprint. I had a few ore from my mining trip sitting around, so it was perfect. After watering my crops like usual, I crafted a furnace and set up a little smelting area. One thing I absolutely love about this mod pack is the automate mod. I can just throw my ore and coal into a chest next to the furnace, and it automatically handles everything for me. It's probably one of the most useful quality of life mods I've installed so far. With that taken care of, I chopped some trees and made a few field snacks before heading into town. I processed a bunch of geodes at Clint's shop and got a few artifacts out of them, which meant another trip to the museum. After donating everything, Gunter rewarded me with 9 cauliflower seeds. Nice. I rushed home, planted all of them, and started putting down some stone pathways around the farm. Just a little. The rest of the day was pretty relaxed. I messed around for a bit, stopped by the saloon, sold a few fish, and wrapped up the day. Day 7 started with the Queen of Sauce teaching me a new recipe, and after that I harvested a bunch of crops, the potatoes, tulips, and carrots. After heading to town, I found cookies in the trash. I also checked the help wanted board and saw a request from Willie, asking for 3 cob to help keep fishing alive around the valley. After getting my inventory sorted out and grabbing my fishing pole, I got the community center cutscene with Lewis, and finally got a look inside the old building. While I was running around town, I stopped and talked to George, and then decided to introduce myself to Evelyn. I gave her a tulip, and she liked it. After that, I headed down to the beach to start fishing. The only problem was, I forgot about Willie's request. So instead of catching carp, I spent a while fishing in the wrong spots, before finally remembering what I was supposed to be doing. I eventually made my way up to the mountain lake, and while I was fishing, Sebastian randomly showed up and started hanging around nearby. Honestly, it was kind of chill. A chill moment. Eventually, I caught the 3 carp I needed, said goodbye to Sebastian, and headed home. On the way back, I sold off most of my fish and was feeling pretty good about the day until I realized something. I never watered my crops. Luckily, it wasn't too late yet, and I still had enough energy left to get everything watered before bed. By the end of the day, I reached level 1 farming, which means I can finally craft scarecrows, along with foraging 3 and fishing level 2. Day 8 started with a letter from the wizard, which meant it was finally time to figure out what was going on at the community center. I planted some more spring seeds, then headed over to Willie's shop to turn in his fishing request. On the way through town, I gave Evelyn some cookies. I barely missed Caroline. After that, it was back to the mine. The trip actually started off pretty well. I found a small magnet ring, which is always nice to have early on. The only problem was, I completely ran out of energy. I was stuck on floor 9, just one floor away from the elevator. I even crafted a few cherry bombs, hoping they helped me find the ladder faster, but it just wasn't happening. So I had to admit defeat and leave the mines one floor short. Back home, I dropped everything into storage before heading down to the Wizard's Tower that evening, and then came the classic Stardew Valley experience. The wizard gave me a yummy drink which drugged me with some mysterious forest juice, and I started seeing colorful spirits everywhere and trees. At least I ended the day with combat level 1. Next day started like every other morning, watering crops before heading to town. I stopped by the museum first, then spent some time fishing, while catching a sardine for one of Demetrius's requests. I also found a lost book washed up on the beach, so that was a nice little bonus. After that, I stopped by Sophia's vineyard, and she surprised me with a karate sprinkler. As usual, I checked trash cans while making my way through town, because at this point, it would honestly be weird if I don't. I also talked to everyone hanging around Peter's shop, and gave Caroline another daffodil. That pushed us up to 2 hearts, which I was really happy about. We're making progress. Not long after, I got another little cutscene with Dusty, which was a nice surprise. Then I delivered Demetrius his sardine and earned my very first prize ticket. I headed over to claim it and ended up getting 12 carrot seeds. Back home, I placed my new karate sprinkler, planted the carrot seeds, and spent the rest of the day wandering around the forest picking up forageables before calling it a night. Opening my door, I was met by Marnie with a stray dog looking for a home. Obviously, I adopted him. Meet Spiz. He will keep me company for the next hundreds of hours in this playthrough. After taking care of the crops, I headed into town and picked up a request from Shane. He wanted a green bean. I also stopped by the community center and finished the spring foraging bundle, which rewarded me with 20 spring seeds. Back at the farm, I grabbed a few gifts before heading to the museum, so I could give Vincent a gift on his birthday to gain some extra heart points. Then I found Haley and gave Emily a dandelion while I was nearby. On my way through Georgia Mart, I also got another cutscene with Claire, who was once again sleeping on her job. Rough day, I guess. Before heading home, I picked up some parsnip and cucumber seeds. Got everything planted, watered the new crops, cleaned up a little bit more of the farm, and called it a day. So, funny story. Apparently, the first few minutes of this day weren't even recorded properly, so we're just gonna pretend that never happened. I checked the mail and Robin lost her axe, so I figured I would grab it later. I always remember Shane wanted a green bean, so I grabbed one before heading to town. I started to look for Shane and found him heading to work. I handed him the bean. He was pretty happy about it. Right after that, I went into Caroline's sunroom for the green tea cutscene. She asked me what I thought of it, and I told her it was really relaxing. We each had a cup of green tea, and she explained that whenever she's in there by herself, her mind just kind of empties and wanders. Then this little guy just started dancing with the tea. She told me I could come back anytime. I really liked the vibe of her sunroom. I headed over to Clint's to crack open some geodes. I cracked open a few geodes, donated a few artifacts, and Gunter rewarded me with 9 melon seeds, which is actually a pretty nice pickup. I also found a field snack in the trash. The trash cans continue to provide for me. Walking around town turned into cutscene after cutscene. Vincent and Jazz thought something was living in the sewer. My character got spooked too. And then Andy told me he's been using Georgia fertilizer and said he would send me some strawberry seeds. Back at the farm, I dropped a few things off, grabbed the Georgia Cola for Robin's request, and then immediately forgot about it while going to the mines. I didn't just forget, I drank it. This trip went way better than my last one. Killing the slimes in my way, I mined copper, and I was finding ladders almost immediately. Made it through an infested floor full of slimes, picked up a small glow ring, and finally reached floor 10, where I grabbed a pair of leather boots. From there, I just kept pushing. I had to deal with cave flies, and a cherry bomb helped clear out a huge patch of copper and even uncovered another ladder. I unlocked the elevator for floor 15. From there, I mostly just kept mining copper and making my way down. I was pretty determined to hit floor 20, even with it being late. By the time I reached floor 19, it was already getting ridiculously late. I fought my way through a few more enemies and mined towards the middle of the floor, and once there, smashed every barrel in the middle, and then started panic mining every rock in sight. 1:40, 1:50 AM, and finally, there it was, the ladder. I jumped down to floor 20, passed out almost immediately, and never got to open the treasure chest. So next time we're definitely coming back for that. So the next morning, Andy stopped by to warn me that crows were starting to show up, so I should probably build a few more scarecrows. After putting away everything from yesterday's mining trip and saying hi to Spiz, I checked the mail and today was stacked. Susan introduced herself and explained she's basically stuck up in the mountains because of the mess Georgia caused. Caroline also sent me the tea sapling recipe. Andy kept his word and mailed me 3 strawberry seeds. Lewis reminded me that the egg festival was tomorrow, and Georgia kindly charged me 58 gold for dragging my unconscious body home last night. I checked the traveling merchant, stopped by Sophia's, and once again, her trash came through with a free grape starter. Then Olivia's trash had a bottle of wine. I also stopped by the bookseller, but yeah, I definitely can't afford anything yet. Lewis showed up and explained that the rock slide had trapped Susan up there in the mountains. Once I finally made it to Robin's, I returned to her axe, gave her the Georgia Cola she wanted, and checked where I needed to build a coop before heading home. Back on the farm, it was finally time to put Caroline's tea sapling recipe to use. I gathered a bunch of spring forage, crafted up a bunch of wild seeds, and then churned those into 15 tea saplings. And then I made one tiny mistake. I planted them. I completely forgot the plan was to sell them. I just kinda stood there looking at them like, wait. I wasn't about to rip them back up and destroy them. so I checked my chest, hoping I still had enough forage left. Luckily, I had 16 more wild seeds. I was a little short on fiber, so I ran around the farm hacking down basically every weed I could find. That gave me enough to craft 7 more tea saplings, and this time they made it into the shipping bin. With the few mixed seeds I got, I planted those and ended the day with over 2,000 gold. With the egg festival starting at 9, I harvest a few cauliflowers, grab my copper bars from the furnace chest, and chop down a tree while I waited for the time. I made it to the festival. I stopped by Pierre's little shop and wandered into the back area. He wasn't exactly thrilled about that. I also picked up 15 strawberry seeds because there's no way I'm leaving the festival without them. I made my rounds talking to everyone. Clint was wondering if there was any more food. Buddy, have you looked at the table? Pam mentioned she added something special to the punch. Alright. And then Demetrius hit me with egg. What a strange thing to eat. After chatting with everyone, it was finally time for the egg hunt. I remember most of the egg locations from previous saves, but either Stardew Valley Expanded moved a few around, or I've just gotten rusty. I even ran over to Lewis's truck because I could have sworn there was an egg there. I stood there clicking. There was no egg. That's when I knew things were not looking good. I started scrambling for every egg I could find. With 1 second left, I spotted another one, but I was just a little too late. I finished with 8 eggs, and Sophia ended up taking the win. I'm not gonna lie, I was really tempted to restart the day, but we're not doing that. Back on the farm, I planted all 15 strawberry seeds, built another scarecrow, watered everything, and wrapped up the day with farming level 2. Today was Haley's birthday, so my main goal was making sure I actually got her a gift. I started the morning by watching Queen of Sauce, and then my mom sent me some cookies in the mail. Perfect timing because I knew Evelyn would appreciate those. I grabbed the gold quality daffodil for Haley, gave George a leek, and stopped by Evelyn's to drop off the cookies.
Did you pray today? Cause if you didn't, I'ma have to dig you down.
After that, I was just a little short of being able to afford the backpack upgrade, so I figured I'll sell one of my gold star daffodils. I had accidentally sold both. So with only 24 gold left to my name, I had a backpack. I immediately ran down to Cinder Sap Forest hoping another daffodil had spawned. Luckily, after searching around for a bit, I found a silver quality one. Not as quite as good, but definitely better than showing up empty-handed. I also dug up an ancient doll while I was out there, so it was a pretty nice bonus. Right as I got back into town, Haley was outside, talking trash about Emily. I gave her the daffodil, and she loved it, which pushed our friendship to almost 3 hearts. After that, I mostly relaxed, handed Emily a dandelion, used up the rest of my energy chopping down a few trees, and called it a day. And that's where we're gonna wrap up part 1. Over these first 2 weeks, we've unlocked the mines, started making friends around Pelican Town, met the wizard, adopted Spiz, started the community center, we're finally starting to get the farm going. If you enjoyed hanging out, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and let me know in the comments if you have any feedback on the video, whether it's the editing, pacing, or anything else. I would genuinely love to hear it. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you all on the next one.